I moved into my apartment just under 6 months ago, and I love this place. It's much bigger than any place I've rented before, and one thing even better is all the stores and any type of shop I need is just under a 2 mile drive from here. Things started changing for me about a month and a half ago. It started off relatively small. I would come home from work and find lights that I swore I turned off when I left would be on. Also, I had pictures hung on the wall by hooks, and I'd wake up to find them face down. Now, you would think it'd be kind of hard for a picture to fall off a hook, but still, I brushed it off. As time went on, more and more things started happening. But one night, it just got way worse. I was laying in bed watching TV, getting ready to go to sleep for the night, when a cross I had hanging above my closet door just flung off the wall and landed about 2 or 3 feet away from where it was hanging. Now I hurried up and shot up out of bed wondering what the hell was going on when I noticed my closet door pop open and slowly start opening. And then just as quick as it happened, it hurried up and got pulled shut like somebody was hiding in there. That ended up scaring the hell out of me, but I wasn't sure if maybe I had an intruder. So I grabbed the bat I had in the corner, crept over to the closet, yelled that if anybody was in there, they better come out. And when I got no answer, I opened the door and found nobody was in my closet. So, of course, I slept that night in the living room. Now the next day I'd come home from work to find my TV on and the volume turned completely up. Once again, I am scared out of my mind, but I go over to shut off my TV. Now next to it, I have a fish tank on a stand. Now as I'm standing there, I glance over at my fish tank to see all my fish are dead, just floating belly up. Now as I'm standing there, pretty bummed out, I look in the reflection of the glass to see a head poking around from the hallway. My heart was in the back of my throat, but I turned around to find nobody was there. Now I know this sounds cliche, but I sat down, brushed it off, and tried coming up with a rational explanation for the weird things going on. But what happened next really scared the hell out of me. Later that night, again, I was laying in bed, watching TV, and dozed off. I was quickly awoken by what sounded like arguing going on in my living room. Now I roll over and I'm looking at the crack under the door, and I can see lights on, and I can swear I'm hearing people arguing out there. So I sit up in bed, and as I'm sitting there, I hear heavy footsteps walking down my hall, and then stop right outside of my bedroom door. I hurry up and lay back down and I close my eyes and I'm freaking out. And all of a sudden my bedroom door just flies wide open. I'm laying there not wanting to open my eyes, and I can hear somebody creeping across the floor till they're standing below my bed. Finally, when I got enough courage to open my eyes, nobody was there. Needless to say, I ended up leaving that night and coming and staying at my parents' house for a little bit. Now, as I'm sure most of you know, when you move back home after you've been out for a little bit, things can get awkward with your parents. So, after a few days, it was time for me to head back home. Everything was okay for about a day or two once I got back, but the final straw was my last night there. I was doing my normal routine when I was laying in bed, just shut the TV off, and was dozing off, when once again I hear the closet door make the click and slowly start opening. Now without moving my head, I just moved my eyes, glanced down, and I can see the shadow of what looked to be a man peeking his head out. Now once again, my heart's in the back of my throat, and I squeeze my eyes closed, and I'm saying the Lord's Prayer in my head, when suddenly I hear the voice say,
"Wake up. I've missed you."
Right then and there, I jumped up and was gone. Came straight back to my parents' house. I don't care how awkward I feel here. I'm not going back. And I still haven't returned to get my stuff. And I don't know who I'm sending there, but I definitely am not going back to that place. Well, that's my story, and I wanted to share it with you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. What's up, everybody? I hope you enjoyed this story. It was sent to me, but it's been crazy busy for me lately. So, once again, I hope you enjoyed it. And here's 2 older videos, the Emily Rose story and the Exorcist story. And make sure you subscribe because there's some good stuff about to be coming. Peace.
I'm not much of a book lover because they've never really interested me all that much. All I really love is dogs because they are just so cute and fluffy. They truly are man's best friend. Well, my mother and father want me to start reading, so they tried to find me a book on dogs. Makes sense, doesn't it? The thing is, though, there aren't many bookshops in town, or anywhere near, and my parents are fervent technophobes. I would never be able to convince them to buy me some stuff on the web about it. However, as it turned out, the local library was closing down, but it was expected as it was creepy and condemned, but they were giving books away for free. One book in particular caught my parents' eyes, a brightly colored book called Dogs, Do's, and Don'ts. It looked in pristine condition, despite being printed in 1985. My parents brought it home and gave it to me. I was a little apprehensive at first, but it was only 100 pages, so I eagerly accepted. It was pretty simple, really. The first 50 pages are do's and the last 50 pages are don'ts. On the first day, I got to page 30 and it was great. There were a few paragraphs of text on each page, including a step-by-step guide and some helpful tips. Also, there were some really detailed illustrations, and a smiling man demonstrating what to do on each page in a photo. Some of the things in here were really useful. Perfect foods, games to play, and tricks to teach dogs. Eventually I got to page 49, but then got tired, so I went to sleep. The next morning, I got up and picked up the book. I was desperate to read the don'ts section, but throughout the day, things just kept popping back up, so I waited until it was night. I laid in my bed and opened the book. However, I wish I hadn't. The book had the same smiling man and the same illustrations, but what they were depicting was truly vile. One was a dog being pulled inside out through its anus. Another was the smiling man fucking the dog, and another was the man boiling the dog with the same sick smile. I felt like I was going to be sick, but at the same time, I felt compelled to read every last page. As I went along, it got worse. The smiling man was pulling a dog's eyes out and eating parts of it, still smiling. Skinning was depicted as well. Not only that, there were tortures that only the most insane and twisted man could possibly think up. I was so relieved that I was finally on page 99. I was so glad because once I had finished this fucked up book, I would get rid of it forever. I was just finishing a section on some sort of marrow removal when I turned to page 100. So glad to think that after this page it would finally be over. Then I saw what was on the last page. A blank template with the words, "Add your own don't section."
I am the maker of over 23 snuff films, I shit you not. Now I have been robbed of my youth, and I almost feel guilty for all the terrible things I have done. But then I remember just how profitable this business was, and I regret nothing. You'd be surprised at how many people want the tapes I used to make. All kinds of people too, young and old, fair and ugly, short and tall, male and female. I guess that some people just have an animalistic side that they want to feed. In many of the movies, I was the man who was committing these dreadful deeds. I had a whole crew to back me up, and most of the time it was somebody else who was slowly cutting off the appendages of a middle-aged female we had managed to abduct, or severing the testicles of a little boy who was never seen again. But sometimes I just couldn't resist getting my hands dirty. The process just looked so interesting. All of what I had was spent far too quickly. I lived a briefly amazing life of drugs and prostitution before it all ran out. I was both a sex addict and a heroin addict, and I was desperate to keep engaging in these activities, even as I lost my money. As of today, the things I only possess are this camera and the knife in my jacket pocket, with which I have made so many quality films. I know that now is my time to make a final motion picture, and once again, I am the star. Setting up the camcorder doesn't take long. I just put it atop of one of the many dumpsters in this alleyway, and before I know it, I am looking at myself in the viewfinder. I backed up, making sure I am in the shot, before taking out the knife of my pocket. It really is a beautiful thing. It's an Italian stiletto style switchblade, with a custom bunk handle and bayonet blade. I've used it plenty of times before, and today I will use it for the last time. I push the release button, and 5 inches of chromed steel slide out of with a satisfying click. I step forward and press the red button for the last time, before lowering the blade to my wrist.
Speed up. 2 words, simple, spoken with authority. I swallowed hard. We were on a dirt trail cutting through the African jungle. A 1-lane road, but also a 2-way road. No room to maneuver. I hesitated, speed constant. Our truck barreled forward. Speed up. Just 2 words. But I've been with the man long enough to recognize the subtle difference when he spoke again. The first time, it was a command. The second time, I recognized the threat. I spared a quick glance to my side. Dark-skinned, narrow eyes, clutching his rifle. A quick flashback to the first time I've ever met this man. 6 days ago. He looked at me hard on our first encounter. He said there was one thing I needed to know. I was to follow orders, immediately, without question. If I did, I'd stay alive. If not, no promises. 100 feet ahead, the object grew clearer. A man, laying in the road. I took my foot off the gas. I looked over. Speed up. The confidence of a man who knew what he was doing. The man who'd already made peace with the consequences of his decision. I swallowed again, and then did what I never thought I could do. I pressed the accelerator to the floor. Just 2 inches. I saw the man in the road look up. I saw the surprise in his eyes. We hit him at 70 miles per hour. 2 thumps and we were on our way. The man to my side sighed, loosening his grip on his weapon. We drove in silence. Pulling into base camp, we disembarked. Enraged, flustered, scared, I moved toward my passenger threateningly. His eyes stopped me short. You killed a man. He said it with no more emotion than one could comment on the weather. My fists tensed. I wanted to hit him, to cry, to scream, but I couldn't move. And you saved us. And you saved us. His voice dropped to a whisper, and I heard something I'd not heard in it before. Gratitude. He turned, walking toward the fire. I followed him, entranced. We met the others, filling our plates. We sat in the circle. My passenger, silent for a while, stared into the fire. I held my plate, unmoving. 6 days ago, an American, uneducated in the rules of the African jungle, met my guide. I paid good money to take me into the jungle for adventure. He agreed as long as I followed every command immediately. As the fire reflected off his eyes, he spoke. One of two things happened tonight. We came across a man, too foolish and reckless, and he got himself hurt on the road. He took a chunk out of his meat. Or he was bait for an ambush, with friends in the trees who would kill us. He looked at me. Either way, he made a bad choice. We're alive. He's not. I nodded. His logic made sense. So today, 20 minutes ago, I killed a fool or a murderer. But now, I'm eating dinner.
Alright, so I'm not someone who's into the paranormal or the supernatural. I don't believe in ghosts, monsters, aliens, or anything like that. However, I have to write about what happened to me last week, because I honestly don't know how to explain it. I work in the sales department for a large company, and I'm frequently required to travel. When I have to go out of town for business, I almost always drive. I've always loved long road trips, and I really do enjoy the time alone. It's just me, some music, greasy fast food, and the open road. When I'm on a longer trip, I usually sleep in a hotel somewhere during the day and drive at night. There aren't as many people on the road, and there's a less chance of getting a ticket for speeding. It was during my last road trip that I experienced something strange. And it was the scariest thing that's ever happened to me. I was driving through Texas along Interstate 40. I had just left Amarillo and was planning to drive through Albuquerque to Flagstaff. Sometime after 1 a.m., I drove through a small town in Texas called Glen Rio. Glen Rio seemed to either be completely closed down at that time of night, or it was a total ghost town. About 10 miles later, there was a rest stop. As you can expect, it was just your typical dirty rest stop with a few vending machines and a restroom. I figured I'd pull in, use the restroom, maybe grab a candy bar and a soda from one of the machines, and continue along the interstate. First of all, there weren't any other cars parked at the rest stop, which isn't unusual outside of a small town at that time of night. I parked my car and headed for the restroom. The room itself was dirty, dimly lit, and with those stainless steel toilets. There was graffiti on the walls and along the mirrors, and that usual gross smell that's unique to these rest stop bathrooms. There was really nothing more unusual or strange about it than any restroom you'd see at any other rest stop in America. I stood in front of one of the urinals to do my business, and that's when I started hearing a strange noise. It sounded like laughter, but kind of gargle, almost like someone was laughing from underwater. I really don't know how else to explain it. It wasn't a loud laugh, more of a chuckle. It was only for a moment, and then it stopped. Like I said, I'm a very rational person, so I didn't think much of it. I thought it was probably just a plumbing issue or something. Just before I had finished doing my business, I heard it again, only it was louder this time. Just a gargled laugh. The bathroom had several stalls, and like I said, It was dimly lit. The sound was coming from the stall furthest down. The stall door was closed, and it was the stall with the least amount of light, rendering it almost totally dark. "Hello?" I said. As soon as I spoke, the sound stopped again. "Is there anyone in there? Are you all right?" There was another sound, almost like someone dragging their feet. Then there was silence. I bent down so I could see underneath all the stalls. Now, like I said, there wasn't much light illuminating that particular bathroom stall, but I could tell that there was no one in there. I shrugged and went to go wash my hands before heading back out to my car. Just as I was drying my hands, I heard a creak. I never turned around, but behind my reflection in the mirror, I could see that the door to that dark stall slowly creaking open. What I saw instantly filled me with the worst sense of dread I've ever experienced. It looked like a man, but I knew it wasn't. The stall door had only opened just a crack, and I could see half of its face. It had a smile too large for its face, sharp yellow teeth, dark black eyes like a doll's, and no nose. It was almost gray in color, with patches of dirty black hair. I just stared at this thing, and it laughed again. The laugh was different this time. It sounded like how the devil must sound if he were to laugh. I ran out of that bathroom like a bat out of hell, with that horrible laughter following me the whole time. I didn't stop and look back and see if that thing was following me out of the bathroom until I got to my car. I was all alone in the parking lot, and whatever it was never came after me. I continued my drive, and the rest of my trip was fine. I just made it back home yesterday and thought maybe it would help make sense of things if I wrote it down. Like I said, I'm a rational person. I do not believe in the paranormal, and I do not believe in the supernatural. But if you were driving through Glen Rio, Texas, just don't stop at any rest stops, just to be safe.
Modern playing cards are filled with layers of meaning and symbols that can be traced back centuries. The four kings, for example, are based on real rulers. The King of Diamonds represents the wealthy Julius Caesar. The King of Clubs is the brutal Alexander the Great. The King of Spades represents the strong but kind David of Israel. And the King of Hearts represents the emotionally disturbed Charles VII of France. It is this king that we will be dealing with today. It should also be noted that Charles was the only one of the four who was actually there to see the day his face was printed on a playing card, which may rationalise why he acted apart from the others. Charles' visage was put on the King of Hearts at the very beginning of his rule, but he never really got a chance to come in contact with playing cards until many years later when he became very ill with a fever and was informed that he would be bedridden for the rest of his life. It was during this period that Charles began learning card games to pass the time, such as an early version of blackjack. Charles lay in bed for 2 years, constantly fiddling with the cards and always getting weaker. As time passed, there were reports that Charles had begun obsessing over the idea that the king being the 13th card in a suit was causing him bad luck. He talked about how he was starting to see the number pop up everywhere, and that he was close to figuring out its secret. Of course, his ramblings were blamed on the fever, and by the end of the second year, he had been declared insane, and his son took over the throne. One day, several months after the end of his reign, one of Charles' physicians went to his chamber to find the frail old man standing in the middle of the room, wielding a large sword. Before the doctor could react, the king said, "You have shown me the truth of 13, and it is not meant for mortal eyes." Without hesitation, the king proceeded to ram a blade through the left side of his head, between the ear and temple, until it came out the other side. He wavered a moment before collapsing to the floor dead. After the incident was announced and it was made public that the king had gone mad, the image of Charles and the King of Hearts was altered to show a suicide. Although the picture is now shown significantly less graphical, the image of Charles thrusting the sword into his skull can still be found on modern-day playing cards. Perhaps the strangest part of the story, however, is the day that Charles chose to kill himself. 7/6/1462. Whether it was intention of the king, the fact that 7 plus 6 equals 13, and 1 plus 4 plus 6 plus 2 equals 13, can only be explained as coincidences. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I just want to say thank you to DeadlyHorror 101, Big Demz, Tony2Metal, SpookyStories, and Dr. Moxmo for taking part in Collab Week. These guys make some great content. I'll leave a link to their channels in the description below so you can check out their channels, and make sure you click that subscribe button while you're there. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment below. All feedback, good or otherwise, is always appreciated. If you have any creepy stories of your own, or have any topics that you would like me to cover, feel free to send them in via any of my social media. You can find all links to my social media in the description below. Until next time guys, make sure you lock your doors, stay safe, and I'll see you next video.